John John and I have known each other a long time. He used to live in Naples, and we became friends at Naples. He used to come to my church, and that's where we got to know each other. John is a very interesting man. He's went to Columbia University, got a master's in history after a stint with the Peace Corps. Moved down to Naples with a friend, started a private school called Seacrest, which flourished. He's always had it in his heart to get back to serving the poor around the world, but not according to the U.S. aid Peace Corps model. He'll talk about that a little bit. We became friends, as I said, when he started coming to my church in Naples, got to know each other. Now, after several years, he started an organization called First Things, and it's not overtly an Orthodox organization. Okay, he'll talk about that. And I think you'll find him very interesting to listen to.
Let me just set myself up. I am blessed to be here. So, yeah, my name is John Heers, and I'm the son of Father Gregory, who was a priest, and Presbyterian Catherine, and my sister's name is Elizabeth, and as you know, my brother's name is Father Peter Heers. He is my younger brother. When I was growing up, my mother, let me just make this a little bigger, because I want to see you guys when I'm talking. And I want to tell you about what I do, but mostly there's a good reason why. When I was growing up, my mother used to tell stories about castles. She really liked England. For some reason, she's not English, but she had an imagination of herself as being such. And she talked about castles in the woods and things that lurk here and there, and I knew I loved the woods. I was not a castle guy, okay? I liked the far-flung woods, obscured by the fog. I like the places where it takes great patience to uncover reality. I enjoy that. My brother likes the castle a lot. He likes to stand on the ramparts. He found in the castle a place on which to stand, and he will not move. And it is his calling, and I love him, but I cannot stand on the castle. I go into the woods, and it's changed my life. The woods, unfortunately, in many ways, today, are 1 foot outside of that door. Those are the woods. My life and that realization came from working in what we used to think of as the woods, the old world, places like Mali in West Africa, the Caucasus. If any of you have been, it's a wild place. Or is it, actually? Vladika, thank you for inviting me here. The woods used to be conceived by New World people, enlightened people, as those places they went to go fix. Those aren't the woods anymore. The woods are right out there, and you all are about to go out into them. And I can tell you this because I work in the old woods, in the old world, and I've learned a ton about the new world and my own existence by going where they are. And today I just want to do 20 minutes, Jesse, about that. Because I want to offer you all in this room something to do. Fathers, I've spoken with him many times. This guy, he's wonderful. He took you up here. By the way, look at this. My 20 minutes is right down here. Simple, right on the ground. You can do it tomorrow if you want to do it. My 20 minutes. We can live it together because I need you in many ways. So, just to finish that thought, we need guardians, but I'm not a guardian, okay? So what do? So I work and have worked for the last 5 years after I took my retirement fund against my wife's better wishes and sunk it into a startup nonprofit called First Things Foundation. I hope you all will look it up. First Things Foundation sends people to go and live, people in the Western world, to go and live in places like Sierra Leone, the Georgian Republic, Mali in West Africa, Mozambique, as of about 2 weeks ago, we're going there now. Appalachia, I don't know, people, what? Hold on a second. Appalachia, and also in Guatemala and Central America. Some of you might think we do missionary work. Let me try to explain why that may or may not be true, okay? In the places where we go, we do small project sustainable development, or a better way to say it is we try to create sustainable projects. But how do we do that? The key to doing anything in our world is to listen, which means you have to speak the local language. So this is really important to understand. The old world is not driven by colonial languages. It's driven, the old world here being pre-Enlightenment existence. You can see all kinds of conformity between pre-Enlightened cultures. If you look carefully, you see them, and I'm going to outline a few. So when I say in the old world in this talk, when you go back into the old world, what you find there is you find reality written in the local language. The problem is few of us who go will speak that language. But the language is essential in understanding the people who supposedly you went to go help. Most of the time what we go to do is tell them how to do what we want them to do so they will have an outcome similar to the one we need so we can sell them stuff. But fundamentally, if you really go to serve, then it's incumbent upon you to listen. This is like Orthodoxy 101. But how can you listen to a group of women who are in utter poverty if you don't speak their language? Because Spanish is not their language. The Mayans don't speak Spanish. They learned to so they could talk to us. Right? The Bambara don't speak French. They speak Bambara. You have to be able to identify with people. And the reason you have to identify is not so that they can take and get what you have. It's so that you can be for them what they need. And so our job is to listen. So we listen carefully by learning the local language. And then the second thing, and this is really important in our work, you live as they live. So right now we have people in mud huts. We have people eating simple cassava meals. They're delicious, but they're served over and over again for 365 days. They become less delicious. That's how it works. And so we don't pay a salary. You get exactly the amount of money you need each month to live at that level of poverty. And you integrate, and you get malaria. You will. And you get all kinds of gastronomical problems, because that's what they get. And then you get something else. Profound insight and relationships, just like you were talking about, Father. So what does this mean for men? Try a relationship where you don't break down in the process of creating it. Try a relationship for you married men, you know. Try a marriage where you aren't broken down by the relationship you aim to create. Try one. I'll bet you don't have one if you're not broken down. But what part of you is broken down in a proper relationship? Your ego. We know this. A loving relationship destroys the ego but increases the nous and the spirit that's within you, and you become united. Well, that's our model for development. You know, when Cyril and Methodius went into the Slavs, they had all kinds of ideas. You notice what the idea they ultimately produced? A language for them. They didn't just take Greek and go plop. This is not how we work as Christians. And so in First Things, what we try to do is go beneath the level that the government has created and deemed developmental. And what have we learned doing this? I lived a total of 6 years without running water and electricity in Haiti, Mali, Sierra Leone, and Guatemala. When you don't have running water and electricity, you know how fast you learn about who you really are? You learn fast. You can't cover up all the things that you thought you could cover up. And so what have I learned? Number one, The old world, and again, this isn't a perfect term, but it keeps popping up in our work. The old world has vocabulary that is infused with spiritual possibility. Now, which spirits? I'm by no means here to tell you what to believe and which spirits are demons and everything, but I know them as demonic. But what I'm telling you is all the vocabulary from the old world is infused with spiritual possibility. Here's one. In Bambara, this is the language of the Malinke, or of the Malians in West Africa. Ala kataka ninka sakanoya. If I were to say that to you, I'd say, okay, have a good trip, I'll see you back. But what it actually means is, may God and his spirits walk in your footsteps as you go and as you come. Ala kataka ninka sakanoya. See you later, hope you get back safe. This is not the same vocabulary. One vocabulary demands you think spiritually. It just does. The other is like, well, see you later. Practical, new world, enlightened conversation. Go and I hope you come back. It's different. One of my best friends in First Things, Daniel, he worked in Sierra Leone. One morning he woke up with malaria and 2 pink eyes. By the way, you're all invited to come do this with us. I need you. I'm not joking. He went to the market, and Fatima told him, look, you've brought God to the market. He's like, I know, I'm sorry, I brought God to the market. You've brought a reminder that we are all bound for somewhere else, because look at you breaking down, your eyes, you're breaking down. What? What kind of conversation is this? And he was pissed. He called me, she goes, she didn't even care about me. She goes, I said, and then we said, he's reminding you of the spiritual reality. She's reminding you, Fatimata. He loved her, by the way. She's a good woman. All the vocabulary has spiritual possibility. We don't do that here. We don't grow up talking like that. Maybe you guys do, I didn't. Not really, not in the institutions I was asked to perform in, colleges, universities, my work. Humility, another old world reality. It's wound in. In Mayan Guatemala, if I come and I provide anything, if I just come in and I say, hey, look, I brought some pencils, the women receive it with a bow. Thank you. Think about the act of bowing. Try it sometime. It's not a pleasant new world experience for powerful men who understand their future. No, this is an act of deep humility, and it's happening all the time in the old world. Here's another one. The image. Now, all those jokes about you take a picture and you think you took their soul. That's real stuff, guys. If you've ever been to West Africa especially, it's very fun. When you take a picture you get a bunch of people together, men, whatever. They're all like having fun, and then time for the picture. No one's ever seen that? You've seen that? Everybody seen that? Soon as they do that, what's happening is they know something. You're about to take them into you and walk away with it. And it's very important you understand me to be honorable. It's not like, oh, I look good. No, this is me, and you will take me, an honorable man. That's normal activity. The spirit is infused. The potential of spirit is infused in all of these old worlds, for better or worse. Finally, respect in the old world isn't earned. It's owed by you. It's owed. If you ever hear yourself saying, you need to earn my respect, New World Modern Enlightenment concept. What are you talking about? You owe it, especially to your elders. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about the old world and what I've learned is the end of life. The old world asks you to begin to think about death the minute you come out of the womb. The minute you're out of the womb, it asks you to think about death. You know how? Because sitting right over there is your great-grandmother, and guess what? She doesn't live down the way at the nursing home. She lives right there with you. And you're going to notice that as you get older, she's about to die. And she dies right in your house, and everyone walks right over to the couch, right where she was for the last 20 years, and say their prayers. You're experiencing the death of your great-grandmother as you grow. Death is present in the old world, for better or worse. And so why am I telling you about the old world is, as men growing up in the new world, we're very rarely asked to think about these things. We're mostly asked to think about ourselves. And when you do that, you get fat. I like what you said, Father. You become spiritually obese. You become unable to understand and relate to the other. You can't run up the stairs because the stairs are the place where you learn about yourself in sacrificing to the other. You can't do it because you're so used to talking and thinking about yourself. And that's why I love what you said, Father, about the internet. It's a dangerous place because most of the time you're putting something out so you can see what other people think about what you think. It's a very odd relationship. You're not actually in the service of anyone else's thoughts. You're in a battleground, I think, like you said. So, what does our work do? And I'll try to get finished for y'all for lunch. Our work asks you to go and get on the cross. Here's the trick. It's easy, and this is how I live my life in the West anyway. Oh boy, the cross is, I gotta miss the game because I have 4 daughters. I gotta miss the game because one of my daughters wants to go have some lunch about something that's silly. I don't want to go. I'll miss the game. That's like taking out a cross, laying it on the ground, and then getting on the cross and then tying some ropes around your wrists and then laying on the ground. That's my cross. I feel really put out. They didn't even put any nails in me, and I didn't even get lifted up. Try getting lifted up. That's the whole point. That's what glory is. To be lifted up is the point. That's why we're on the earth. I think I'm sacrificing when I'm laying on the ground. Let's get lifted up by doing something that's over our head, that's too much. And so first things is trying to take people, and we don't just take Orthodox folks. Although of the 20 folks we've sent into the field, I want you to know we've had 7 people convert to Orthodoxy. That's a pretty good rate. Can we take that? I'd like that in Dallas. It's a good rate. Now, what do I think about all those conversions? I don't know what to think about them, but I know one thing. Once you start to get lifted up, you scramble like rats on a ship to figure out how to get off. Nobody likes the cross in the way that Christ did. Nobody understands it that way, but we try, right? And so what we try to do is give you a place and a space to get lifted up. We try to create the difficult environment. We don't have to create it, we send you. But then during the process, we try to explain what's happening. And in the explanation, I found that a lot of these men, they like the explanation. They like the Orthodox explanation. It's not the point of our work to make converts, but what happens is people, when they struggle, desire to know the truth. And so that's one of the things that's happening. I think it's a proper missionary model. So, finally, I'd like to keep going, but I want to take some questions. Okay? This isn't for men particularly, but something happens to the men we send that's different from the women. Women, when they go and experience something not, shall we say, not ordinary, not in their cultural wheelhouse, what they tend to do is huddle up. What they tend to do is organize and nurture. There's a natural relationship that happens with the women we send and the women that they work with. There's a camaraderie that comes very easy. For us, it's not like that. We have a natural inclination toward control. A natural, especially Western men, a natural inclination to identify our success in the success of our projects. And what happens is we move people like chess pieces so that they may stand where we want them to, so we can take a picture of how they've done what we wanted. And in doing that, we can claim success. It's why people quote numbers. We were able to touch. Be very careful when you're giving money to groups that really have a nice spreadsheet about just how many people received how much money. Just be very careful about that. We can do math on this tomorrow. We'll look like we're hitting the home run every time. It's easy to do the math on that stuff. The real question is how many people had a metanoia? How many people that you send and how many people that they relate to are actually being changed, are actually relating and loving in a different way? And you'll never put a number of that on a spreadsheet. I'm telling you, you won't. But what I want to say is this whole process that we're asking of our field workers, it ties all into what Father's saying about relationships. We offer our guys a chance to create relationships that end in something that looks like sacrificial love. So we always say, it's one of our mottos on our website where I hope you all go, is creation begins with sacrifice. The seed has to go into the ground and die before it can grow. The problem is we in the West have become used to the sacrifice where we're still on the ground, where we're still getting just enough of what we want. And I hope you all will consider a different way of doing things. We're not under a bishop. We always struggle with this, Latika, how to do it. I love OCMC. We've spoken with them. We sell ourselves as a small project development organization with an Orthodox ethos. Not that Orthodox ethos, but an Orthodox ethos. And so I just want you all to know that I'm blessed to be here. And I came to share. I have a whole series of other things I'd love to talk about in terms of history and stuff, but I think that does what I hope it will do. Can you guys ask some questions if you have any?
Talk about, the building of the indigenous businesses.
Yeah. So real quickly, the joy and the hope, and it's happened to us in Guatemala with a number of our projects and in West Africa. If this is a society, it is a society, you guys are a culture. I bet in here right now, there's one or two of you out of this 30 or out of this 100 that has an idea for themselves about how they can build their life, but also build the life of the community they live in. You've had something pass through your mind. Hey, that building over there that sits empty, we really should, you get it? The entrepreneurial spirit isn't really American. It's a bit of a lie. The entrepreneurial spirit is in all people. It's the creative spirit. The problem is in ancient old world societies, to raise up your head was dangerous. To be nonconformist was dangerous. You kind of get it chopped off by the structures that be, by the hierarchy. But in each society that we visit, we find these individuals, and they're usually on their way to something, but there's roadblocks. And so our projects are aimed at finding the person. So before I go any further, Father, finding the person with the really cool idea that can change the community. Does that sound hard? It's super hard. Because here's the way you don't do it in our 5 years. John Heers with First Things Here Foundation is here to call a community meeting. Please all come down and let's all talk about ways we can help the community. Disaster. Super disaster. Imagine a foreigner come walking into the church, but you know that they have money. I don't know, pick a foreign culture you want, a Chinese guy. Hey, this guy's coming in, he's a multimillionaire, he's coming in. Li Jing is going to have a meeting at Dallas Elks Club, and he wants to find out about how everyone's going to make Dallas better. Really? That's what we're doing? You're just going to wait for him to give the signal of what he wants, and you're going to speak to him, and then he's going to speak to you, and eventually what's going to happen is he's going to do his project in Dallas, and you're going to be the one that helps him do it. So you can't call a community meeting. You have to sit quietly. You have to be so weird that they keep asking you, why are you here? And if you're weird enough for long enough, and you speak the language well enough, they just start to say, you should really go talk to Modibo. He's got the coolest bee project you've ever found. Or they bring Modibo to you. But the minute you show up as a foreigner, especially as a white person in most of these places, you've got the playing field out of whack. And now the people with the best ideas can't crawl it up there. The people up there with you are government officials and people who all want some piece of the trough you're bringing. You have to not do anything for long enough that people start to trust you. Does that sound weird? But it's true. Now, if you want to do an electrification program, you know, like in Sierra Leone, and you want to take 50 villages and give them electricity, you got the wrong organization. We're not trying to do that. That's a government job. But if you want to find people in local communities, that's what we do. And the long-term goal is that when they're finished, when you've done a good job consulting and helping, I'll give you an example. It's writ large what we do. Andrew, who served in Guatemala for 2 years, was in his second year. The first 6 months is always immersion, learning the language, learning the culture. In his second year, he began the process of creationship, or small project development. Guess where he was? He was trying to get he was chasing this Russian girl. She's awesome. Chasing this Russian girl by going to the wedding that she was invited to in Guatemala City. Now, his work is out with the Mayans in Momostenango, 5 hours away. But he's on the bus going to meet Victoria. And he goes to the wedding, and at the wedding, he meets the grandsons of the former prime minister, two prime ministers previous. And they start talking at the table. And at the table, they say, wait a minute, hold on. Gringo, you live in Momostenango. That was one of the Civil War sites during the Guatemalan Civil War. It was a rough area to be. You live with, who's your organization? He goes, well, first things, but I live with a family. Whoa, what do they do to you? They're like, what do you mean, what do they do to me? Like, I eat food, and I've never been to a Mayan village in Momostenango. I mean, in that region. He's like, wait, you've never been to a Mayan village? He's like, can I come? This is the prime minister's grandson. He gets his bulletproof car and he drives out with my friend to go hang out in Momostenango. Now, if you're politically correct right now, you're asking, where are the brown people in this conversation? Where are the brown people? Well, don't worry, it's coming. They get out there, these two sons are overwhelmed by the process. They can't believe he lives there in the way he lives. They drive back, and together they go to the AT&T of Guatemala. And they plugged my buddy Andrew into the grant process. And he returned with over $50,000 for 3 villages, and they built schools. Could a Mayan have done that? No. That wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening by the way that the construct of the culture. Did we do the right thing? I think we did the right thing. First Things got $0 out of this process. But all of the influence that we could was pushed back toward the people that we had. We didn't have a relationship with these grandsons. Our relationship was with the Mayan. We could speak on their behalf. To me, that's very Christian. It's very Christian, white or black. It's the idea of giving yourself to others. That's what a project looks like. Now, that didn't have the sustainable business side to it, but it's a very typical project where we unite people together and then find the capital resources necessary for the project. So if you like project development, that's kind of what we do. Other stuff? Does this interest anybody? Yeah? It's what it is, it's private Peace Corps with an Orthodox underpinning. So if you're wondering about the Orthodox underpinning, here's how it works. In everyone we hire, the first thing I do is I introduce them to the idea of the origins of the first things. And the origins grew out of the Orthodox notion that sacrifice, right, that creation demands sacrifice. And so they're immediately made aware of this in the interview process. So if you get a secular person who kind of goes through the first 2 interviews, it's sort of like a marriage where you're like, I think I could marry this woman because she's sort of Orthodox. She's on her way. You know this feeling? If any of you are looking for wives? Because good luck finding not a lot of Orthodox women around. So as you get closer, you start to say, this person could do it. And then the 3rd interview they do is with Father Hans. That pretty much seals the deal, or we don't hear from them again. Now, we've had more than half people come in who are not Orthodox. When they come in, they already are aware there's expectations about vocabulary, but guys, we never put any expectations on them for who they're going to work with, how they're going to think, what they're going to do. Also, we always start with a partner in country. So I was just in Mozambique. The partner there is a catechumen who's a world-class farmer in North Dakota. These guys they're amazing farmers, have like 40,000 acres. And basically, they own this property as previous evangelicals. The problem is they're leaving their evangelical world and they're becoming Orthodox, and they want us to help them develop projects in and around this very poor community in Mozambique. But as catechumens, it's fascinating to watch. Well, they're not quite catechumens yet, how they're going to work within this world. And so we always try to go where we're invited, and the invite usually comes from some sort of, sympathetic partner. Other stuff? Yes, Ladika.
Sympathetic Partner. Okay, there is a project kind of centered in Long Beach, Orange County, well drilling in Tanzania. Are you connected with that?
I would love to. That's partly why I'm here.
Now, it's not a big stretch of the imagination to go from Tanzania to Mozambique. They might have their limitations there.
Sure.
But I'm sure some type of creative partnership, especially if it's not based on personal profit,
100%.
it would work. Something like, and it's sponsored by Orthodox Christians, they should look at this as a kind of broadening of outreach and missions.
I love it. So Vladika's idea is just at the core of what we do, which is offer human capital, that's an awful phrase, offer souls who want to go spend their life trying to help others. But we have to do the connections because it's not always clear, right? It's not always clear where we belong and where we don't. I love that. Another example of that is similar is we were invited by a Ukrainian mining company. They were going to pay our bill to go to Guatemala, but we found something out, which we may or may not find out. We did the site assessment. The Guatemalan mining company had just had a major fallout with the local Mayan community. So I want you to see the angles already, right? What they were asking our people to do was to come on their dime and start small local projects that would make these people happy so that they would continue to work in the Ukrainian mines. Does that all make sense? The problem is there had been a murder. And so I tiptoed out of that one because we were about to put people in some serious danger because no matter how hard we tried to say we're independent, we would have been working for the Ukrainian miners. So that angle is really important. But that is the kind of angle that's beautiful, is when you can work it and do it properly, you can do great work if you get the right sympathetic partners. So, yeah, maybe one more question. Yeah, it's first-things.org. I have a couple. We can leave one maybe in the church, but you can take some. I have some. If you'd like to be a field director, sometimes this is what we call folks in the field. We're changing the name from director to worker. I don't like director. It popped up in a really good conversation. I have a podcast called Why Are We Talking About Rabbits? I'd love for you all to go check it out. What I try to do is interweave the old world and new world and then create networks for our work. And we also take trips overseas. We take people to where we work. If you ever just want to go to Georgia, there were 6 of us just went there. We did a trip to Georgia. Leighton was on the trip. So that's first things, y'all. I think it ties in, and I'm really grateful to have been here and talked to y'all. It's a blessing. And I'll be around. My flight's not till early tomorrow. Unfortunately, I had to get a Sunday flight. So thank you. Thank you very much.